And, of course, joining us live now from the United Kingdom, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, quite a hectic weekend. First of all, the airport scare. Why?
Well, Yael, that closing down of Heathrow and Gatwick airports for British Airways flights has caused enormous havoc for travellers, not just in the UK, but those passing through that airport, either of those airports. They're both, of course, hubs for international travel for travellers from around the world. BA have kept quite tight-lipped about it, not really saying much more than there has been a huge computer failure, which of course caused some people to speculate that it could have been continuation of cyber attacks that we've seen in recent weeks. That said, there does not seem to be any evidence of that so far, so it could just be an enormous mess-up on the part of BA's computer systems, which will take weeks and millions of pounds for them to unfold, because there are people who are stranded in different parts of the world. There is luggage which will find its way to different parts of the world very slowly as normality returns. And that means that British Airways have a complicated few months ahead of them.
To put it mildly, when it comes to the Manchester investigation, what has the police found thus far? And how, and you know, when we go from critical to severe, what do they know?
So the police have been working flat out since last week when this incident occurred, this terrorist attack. And we know now that there have been 16 arrests with 14 people still in custody. That means 2 of them have been released without charge. More addresses are likely to be raided, we've been told, and more arrests are likely, but they've made significant progress. Officers searched a property in Cheshire connected with the investigation, and also in Manchester in the area, a 19-year-old man was arrested. In Greater Manchester, police are saying that a 23-year-old man was arrested in Shoreham-by-Sea, which is in West Sussex, a good 260 miles away from Manchester. That happened in the early hours of this morning. Police officers and armed officers with counter-terrorist officers raided the property, and whilst they took away that young man, they are still there investigating the property itself.
And Jonathan, when it comes to the effect this has on the discussion within, well, first of all, the British people and the discussion leading ahead to the June 7th elections, what effect is this having right now?
Campaigning's resumed now, and tonight there'll be, or today rather, there'll be a debate on television between Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the opposition Labour Party, and Theresa May, the sitting Prime Minister, leader of the Conservative Party. So that really will show the resumption of mainstream campaigning in anticipation of the election on June the 8th. But of course, this is an unknown. It wasn't something that either side had prepared for. And there have been all sorts of allegations about how either party should be behaving in the aftermath. People have been pointing out that Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, in his long political history, has shown some, let's say, sympathy with certain terrorist organizations, including the IRA, even calling Hamas and Hezbollah friends at certain points in recordings. So, of course, the Conservatives have been making a lot of that. On the other side, there have been allegations that MI5 and the security services haven't done enough to keep tabs on suspects, Salman Abedi being somebody that they were aware of, but obviously their intelligence didn't stop this attack.
And that's exactly it. It's hard to speak about it a day after an attack, but when it comes to security and actually failing of intelligence, any talk about how come what feels like a sleeper cell was not discovered, was not sourced, was not warned about, any discussion on how this even happened just less than a month, I think it was a month since the Parliament attack.
Yes, indeed. Of course, that Parliament attack, what they're calling a lone actor attack, that's one man in a car with knives, much harder to detect. But an attack like this, which they say has involved a complex network of people, we can see that just from the number of arrests and the type of attack, it's something that really could potentially have been by intelligence. Expert bomb maker preparing an attack, research on a site where they're likely to be able to cause mass casualties. And MI5, the security service, has said that it started 2 investigations internally into, one, how this could have been missed and whether or not there was enough intelligence on Salman Abedi that perhaps they should have been watching him more closely. And the second investigation will then be more general in terms of how they could act differently in the future in relation to people who they're already watching, how they should assess who deserves closer attention because counter-terror authorities are said to have 500 investigations into 3,000 individuals ongoing. And security sources have told the Press Association that a further 20,000 individuals were said to have been considered subjects of interest in the past, which means there's an enormous job in sifting through that and deciding who should be watched more closely in order to stop these kind of attacks.
Entirely so. Jonathan Sacerdoti joining us from London. Thank you so much for it this morning. And in the United States,